Hey Bookaholics, so welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you my September TBR. September is of course the month for the magical readathon autumn equinox, and I am going to be participating. My career is Archmage, which means that I have quite a few books that I need to read this month. I am going to be sticking only to the compulsory subjects that I would need for my calling, and then I'm going to be focusing on the side quest, mostly because it gets you extra guild points. And if you have watched the Emporium announcement, you will know that the guild points are actually worth something now, and I gotta get me a fancy desk. So I'm gonna be focusing on the things that get me the most points. If after the quest I also manage to squeeze in some more extra subjects, then fantastic, but for the time being, focus is on the compulsory ones. I am going to be doing this by subject, so if you see a series out of order, it's just because I'm going by subject. Let's get on with it. So the first class that I need to take is I need a D in Alchemy, which means I need to read 3 books. The first level, which is O, is to read an emotional read. For this one, I'm going to be reading Educated by Tara Westover. It's been a while since I've read a nonfiction, and this is one that got bought for me, I think, over a year ago now. So I should probably get to it. But this is the story of the author. It is autobiographical, and how she grew up in a cult that was a survivalist, the world is ending soon type cult, and therefore she was not entitled to an education, and she was not entitled to pretty much any rights, and lived with her very oppressive family, and is how she managed to escape the confines of this cult and then also managed to get herself an education. So I believe, given that premise, this is going to be quite an emotional read on many fronts. I imagine it's going to be very anger-inducing and very frustrating and possibly also very sad. I think made all the more poignant by the fact that it is a non-fiction. So I am excited, seems like a strange word to use, but I am anticipating enjoying the reading experience, if not the content. For Q, we have a book that was previously self-published that has now been traditionally published. And remember what I said before about a series being out of order? Yeah, this is where it starts. We have 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater. This is the second book in the Regency Fairy Tales series, and in this one I have no idea what is happening because I haven't read the first one yet. So when I get to the synopsis of the first one, I'll enlighten a bit more on what this is. But they are Regency books that have Fae in them, and that's the full extent of my knowledge. For D, I need a book with food on the cover. This one's a little tiny bit of a stretch, but I'm going with Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. This one does have berries on the cover. I'm not sure if I was out in the forest and I saw those berries, I'd be like, that seems safe. But there are berries that aren't edible, so the closest I've got, okay? There isn't a lot of food on fantasy covers, so this is what I've got. And this one is another one of Ava Reid's like fairy tale-esque stories, and this one is about a young woman seeking to leave the oppressive behaviors of her tyrannical wizard father. It is a retelling of the Juniper Tree, and it is a gothic, apparently, vibe horror, and I am really excited for this one. I did like The Wolf and the Woodsman, and I would like to see how Ava Reid has improved as a writer from that book, because I think that there was a lot of potential there, and the only issues that I really had with it are probably more to do with it being a debut. So I'm excited to see how this one progresses. I don't know if this is another one that is a romance or not, but I read a gothic and retelling, and I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds fantastic. The next class that I need to take is Spells and Incantations, and I need a Q in this subject, which means I need to read 2 books. The first prompt is to read a 5-star prediction. Now this one is also a little bit of a stretch. This is more like wishful thinking, but that is Crucible of Gold by Naomi Novik. Now this one is a stretch because I have, for the most part, been really loving reading Temeraire. I have rated almost all of the books either 4 or 5 stars, but the most recent book I ended up rating 3 stars. So I got to the point where I wondered if this series begins to decline at this point. So I looked up the ratings, and it seems like this is one of the highest rated ones on Goodreads, which gives me hope, because again, I have rated other books in this series 5 stars. This is part of a book club that I am hosting with my friend Eleanor from Eleanor Nichvata, and this is one that we've fallen behind a little bit on the live shows, but I have been having a really good time working my way through. So I am really hoping for this one to be a 5-star read more than actually predicting it will be. This one is the 7th book in a 9-book series that is the Napoleonic Wars but with dragons. In it we are following Captain Will Lawrence, who, when his ship overtakes a French vessel that happens to be harboring a dragon egg which is indispensable to the war effort, the egg begins to hatch, and with them needing to find someone that can bond with this dragon immediately to ensure its allegiance, Will takes the hit and becomes the constant companion to the fighting dragon Temeraire. I am very excited to see where this one goes because we are, I believe, going to South America. We have been traveling all around the world with these books and using the dragons as a form of discussion around colonialism and slavery in a very interesting way. So I have every hope that the previous book was just a little dip in the middle of the series and that we are back on form with this one. For Q, I need a book that was mentioned in one of G's videos. G being Book Roast, the creator of the Magical Readathon. And I went through a few of G's videos and we don't really overlap too much in taste, but there is an author that I am really excited to try that she happens to have read recently, and that is Olivia Blake. And the book that G mentioned in her video was Masters of Death. This one has such a kooky synopsis. I don't really know what to expect from this one, but apparently we have a vampire who is a real estate agent who is trying to sell a haunted house. So she brings in a medium to try and deal with the hauntings, but the medium is actually a fraud, but he is also the godson of death. I'm excited for it because that synopsis sounds completely nuts, but I don't know what to expect from it. I literally don't even know if it's a comedy or a horror. I am assuming it's a comedy with that synopsis, but I have no clue. So I'm very excited to give it a go. And this will be my first Olivia Blake book, which is also very exciting. The next subject that I need to partake in is Artificery. However, I only need an O in this one, so it's a nice, easy subject. And the prompt is a book that is the same color as your birthstone. I was born in May, which means that I am a Taurus, which means that my birthstone is an emerald. Yes, I did have to Google that. And I have an emerald book. I have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. And I can actually tell you what this series is about now, because this is book 1 and I know what's on the back of this one. This one is about Theodora, who is basically, when she was a baby, a fae tried to take her soul but was interrupted. So she only has half a soul. She just seems to not pick up on social cues. She seems to be kind of awkward, has no sense of fear and no sense of embarrassment. So she just kind of keeps fumbling around in Regency era where its social decorum was life or death sometimes. So I'm very excited to see how this is portrayed. This is another one that was self-published that is now traditionally published for anyone who needs that. But yeah, I believe that this is a romance between a fae and this ordinary girl, but I am unsure. I don't even know if it's about reclaiming the other half of her soul or literally just surviving Regency England, the latter seeming more terrifying to me personally. So yeah, I'm very excited to get into this one, and I am very excited to try some Olivia Atwater. I'm trying all of the Olivias and Olivies for some reason. The last subject that I need to pass is Inscription, and we have the letters O and Q that I need to pass. For O, it's a book that contains all of the letters from your first name, which is an odd one because I have a very short first name because Faye only has 4 letters, but at the same time it has an F and a Y in it, which are not the easiest letters. But I did find For One More Day by Mitch Albom. This is my first Mitch Albom. I do own 3 books by this author. My parents really like his works and it is nice and dinky, which is fantastic for a readathon, and I have absolutely no idea what this book is about. As a child, Charlie Bonetto was told by his father, "You can be a mama's boy or a daddy's boy, but you can't be both." So he chooses his father only to see him disappear when Charlie is on the verge of adolescence. Decades later, Charlie is a broken man. His life has been destroyed by alcohol and regret. He loses his job, he leaves his family, he hits rock bottom after discovering he won't be invited to his only daughter's wedding, and he decides to take his own life. Charlie makes a midnight ride to his small hometown, his final journey, but as As he staggers into his old house, he makes an astonishing discovery. His mother, who died 8 years earlier, is there and welcomes Charlie home as if nothing ever happened. I am suspecting this is going to be another tearjerker. This definitely could have worked for the emotional prompt. Hopefully this will be my gateway drug into Mitch Albom, and I want to read all the other books of his that I own. And the last prompt that I have for Inscription is the color wheel, and basically I take this wheel that I imagine Editing Me has very sensibly put on the screen, and whatever color comes up, it needs to be the color of the font of the title as opposed to the color of the cover of the book, which is an interesting way of going about it and to make it a little bit more complicated. And I got red, which I'm hoping the wheel has now shown you, and I am going to be finally starting the Stormlight Archive. So we have the Way of Kings. I only have part 1. I'm not that much of a masochist. On a readathon month, I'm going to try and tackle both halves of this book. That sounds a bit terrifying. This is going to be a very interesting experience for me because I have had so many ups and downs with Brandon Sanderson, and one of the things that kind of concerns me a little bit is that I have had, at least at the moment, better luck with Sanderson's standalones than I have with his series. So we'll see how this goes. I do have both halves of this book, and I do appreciate that I can't really judge this book alone. I do need to judge it based on the entire book. And I also appreciate that this is potentially going to be a setup book, because that's how a lot of the longer epic fantasy series roll. So I will give this more of a chance than I potentially would another series because of the sheer length of it. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. This might be where me and Sanderson either become best buddies or we separate forever. And those are all of my compulsory prompts. I do have a couple of other books that I would like to get to, and I will see if I can somehow weave them into the lore quest. One of them, again, being slightly masochistic. But I do need to finish the Regency Fairy Tale series because I do like binge reading a series. So I'm not just going to leave this one out, leave it all on its own. So I have Long Shadow, which is book 3. I am, again, excited to get to this whole series, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of the different stories and the ways that they are portrayed. I'm looking forward to also seeing how much of a balance this is between it being a historical Regency story versus it being a fantasy versus it being a fairy tale story. So I'm excited to see how that balance is tackled by this author. And the other one that I have is An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. Now, this is one that I didn't have the best time with book 1 as a minor understatement. So I'm a bit hesitant to get into this one, but at the same time, if I leave it too long, then I won't pick it up at all. This I did initially pick up for a read-along that is bi-monthly, but I'm going to continue straight away. I'm just going to go straight into book 2 and work my way. I'll still probably do the monthly. I don't think I will enjoy this series enough to binge read this series, but I will do the monthly, and then I will just kind of get them over and done with. And I have heard the books get better with each installment, so as much as I didn't have the best time with book 1, hoping I'll still have a better time with book 2 and then even better time with book 3, but we'll see, because my issue was mostly the writing style, which I can't foresee changing over much from one installment to another. We'll see. But this is the story of, it's a young man who has these magical abilities that are regulated after a big war, and he therefore has to live in this school that kind of gives monastery vibes. They're not allowed to leave without permission, and then one day he is about to endure this trial to see what his powers are, and he can't manifest his powers. So if that happens, he is going to get turned into what's called a shadow, which it seems like they just take your soul, which sounds fun. And then he is on the verge of this, where he knows he's going to lose his soul or whatever it is to become a shadow. One of his mentors approaches him and is like, actually, there's this thing happening up north where this magical barrier is collapsing, and you happen to have the type of powers that will save us. Could you go on up there? And that's pretty much it. It's just him getting up to this magical barrier so he can fix it, which is not content for an 800-page book. You know, so I'm hoping that now we're at the magical barrier and things can happen, that book 2 will actually have some content. But that is it for this TBR, at least for now. Again, I can't tell you what I'm going to be reading for the lore quest because it's not actually open yet available to me. But I will be putting most of my energy towards these books, and then I will also participate in the lore quest where possible. I do like to read novels where possible for the main prompts, but I don't mind chucking in like a short story even for the lore quest. So we'll see as it goes, and you'll see in my wrap up what I read. I do normally try and vlog the Magical Readathon experience, but September is literally like the busiest month of the year for me, so vlogging is probably not going to happen, which is a shame. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on how the reading is going. Let me know in the comments down below what prompts you are most excited to fulfill, because there were some evil ones in there this year. And let me know if you've bought anything from the Emporium yet. I'm really curious what people are buying. And that is all for me for today, so thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye!